We're this close to crowning an NBA champion. I like the Celtics, by the way, in 6. Jaylen Brown's going to be my MVP, and I love the Celtics in game 1. But sign up 90 seconds. Put in the code Colin, COLIN. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you're a new customer, bet $5. That's it. Just bet $5, and you'll get $150 instantly in bonus bets. The code Colin, COLIN, shows them that you're a new customer to get $150 in bonus bets only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. I'm leaning Celtics in 6, baby. We're this close to crowning an NBA champion. I like the Celtics, by the way, in 6. Jaylen Brown's going to be my MVP, and I love the Celtics in game 1. But sign up 90 seconds. Put in the code Colin, COLIN. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you're a new customer.
Before we get into it, this episode is brought to you in part by Hyper Ice. As you know, as a 12-year veteran myself, a lot of guys miss out on the recovery that it takes to play in the NBA. It's important that my body can bounce back as I get older. As I've told you all before, I am a super big fan of Hyper Ice, especially the Normatec boots, because I just feel like Superman when I come out of them. And as you all know, or may not know, I'm letting you know, the Normatec Elites are new. They're the best. They've ditched all those extra hoses and the control units from the old model, so you can get on the go if you need the Normatec Elites. They are great. This one is fully self-contained with a small set of buttons to select your compression level. Super easy to travel with and to get set up after a hard workout, after a game, or if it's for you who's not an athlete, after a hard day of work, or walking around, or chasing the kids around. Because, by the way, as I get older, chasing these kids around, it's tough. And my son calls me old on the daily. So these are for you as well. On top of that, the Normatec Elite packs 4 hours of battery life, which is enough juice to get full leg compression cycles in before games, after games, on the plane, after work, before work, at work. How about that? At work. You saw me podcasting in the Normatec Elites, and I was at work. That is my day job right now, as we have lost, and the finals are going on, and we're not playing. So don't get me started on the tech inside this thing. The Hyper Ice has been pioneering recovery science for years, and the brand new Normatec Elite takes it to another dimension with 7 different compression levels to choose from. As I said before, it's not just for pro athletes, it is for you. Whoever is not a pro athlete, which most of you aren't pro athletes, and it is for you. So shop all your warm-up and recovery needs at hyperice.com. Use code Draymond. For those of you who hate the name Draymond because you hate me, but you watch this podcast because you hate me, I got a gift for you. Use the code Draymond on hyperice.com for 15% off your order today. Exclusions may apply. Before we get into it,
we are live.
All right. Welcome. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Draymond Green Show. We are back with another episode of Champs Only, and today we have a 5-time champion. So I'll just shut up. Like, it's levels. You know, Shaq always talk about the G14 classification and it being levels to different things. And quite frankly, this isn't a level I can really speak on. However, we got 5-time NBA champion, Los Angeles Laker legend, none other than the one and only Derek Fisher. D. Fish, what's going on, my brother?
Man, Dre, appreciate you, man. You are closer than most. So, and you still ticking. So keep that thing going and keep striving for it, man. You spoke of Shaq. I wouldn't have 3 of mine without him. So it's definitely levels to it.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you, man. Number one, I appreciate you coming on the show. It's an honor for me. You know, I always tell people, I grew up like as a Shaquille O'Neal fan. Like my first jersey, basketball jersey, was an Orlando Magic Shaquille jersey. I had the Orlando Magic nightlight. I had the zip-up onesie, Orlando Magic. Like, I was a Shaquille fan. Obviously, Shaq and left and joined the Lakers. And So I feel like I've watched your entire career. Like,
That's
because
for
when
real.
Shaq went to the Lakers, like I'm cheering for the Lakers. I'm everything like Shaq. So, and I feel like I've watched your entire career. And I just want to say, as a kid who didn't have a clue of what I was really watching, we watched the game and you love the game, right? Like you love Shaq and you love Kobe. And like when I think back to being that young kid watching y'all play, what I knew is just like fish make big shots. Like
Mm.
I don't care what else you talk, fish make big shots. And
Yeah.
when I go back and I watch as an adult, as someone who actually understands the game of basketball, what you provided for that team from a leadership perspective, like actually going through the grind and like knowing what it takes, and then like to look back, man, the leadership you provided for that team, the selflessness you provided, the defense, the toughness. You were so much to that team that I'll call myself the naked eye who really didn't know what was going on. Like you didn't have a clue. You're stupid like me, like, man, D Fish hit big shots. Like, because that's what you can see. And like to look
Yeah.
back and understand and know your impact on the game. Number one, I just want to say thank you for being who you are to the game of basketball. But number two, as
Thank
somebody
you.
in your position, what was it like for you going through those championship runs? And when you're going through those championship runs, you don't quite get the credit for all the things that you're actually doing for that team.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well, first of all, thank you for breaking that down. I did not know the history of like how much you had really respected and followed Shaq and then followed him from Orlando to LA. And I followed him from Little Rock to LA myself. I mean, him coming in free agency a couple weeks after the draft changed my life forever, man. And so I appreciate you saying those things. And honestly, for me, I think as a kid, like as you mentioned, like when you're watching the players that you love and respect the most, you start to internalize and visualize like what success looks like for that person or the team that he plays on. And I was a Magic Johnson fan growing up, my
Wow.
all-time favorite, but I knew I wasn't 6'9". I knew I wasn't going to be Magic Johnson, but winning was like that was going to be my superpower. I knew I wasn't going to be the guy with the longest wingspan, the most height. I wasn't the most talented or skilled guy. But in those moments when my ego wanted to tell me to try to do more myself, I would have to try to pull myself back as a man and say, but bro, you want to win more than anything because that's the only way you're actually going to get the recognition that you feel like you do deserve. Is people got to look back, like you said, and really see the impact that you provided that was not just statistical. And I mean, those were real time conversations throughout the season because there were nights where, as you know, it's like, bro, don't play me. Don't think I can't do more.
That
It's
part.
you're choosing not to do more in order to best allow for the team to be successful.
Absolutely. And I know for me, having Steph, having a Clay, where it's like, if nobody else appreciates you, those guys like go to bat for me. Those guys appreciate me. And so on those nights where it's like, man, I know I did way more than anybody's ever going to say, than anybody's ever going to give me credit for. On those nights where you feel like it don't matter, it's the support and the love from those guys for me that kept me going. What was that like for you from Shaq, from Cole, like on those nights that it's like, yo, I know the impact I just had, but nobody out there is going to say it. What was Shaq and Kobe like from that aspect?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think they had two different perspectives on that. Like Kobe and I came in as rookies the same year, and our relationship was forged on those stay ready days.
Yes.
We we
Yeah.
playing full court 1-on-1. We lifting weights together, we doing conditioning together, and we really built that sweat equity with each other. And he saw where I came from. He didn't play a lot his first year. I didn't play a lot my first year. So there was that commonality we had that by the time we got to those championship years, he had seen my grind.
Mm-hmm.
So he appreciated all the little things that I had done along the way. He knew I could do more because, I mean, every now and then I would score when we played one-on-one. So he knew I could do a little more than I showed in the game at times. But he respected the impact that I had in all the intangible ways. And then I think for Shaq, like I started to earn that trust from him in my second season. Nick Van Exel had some knee issues, and he was out for a couple weeks. And we went out on a big road trip, Pacers, Knicks at the Garden, kind of like an East Coast swing. And, you know, Shaq got double teamed against everybody we played, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And in my first game as a starter, I remember an interview before the game with Brian Burwell, who worked with TBS at the time. And he interviewed me. He knows I'm nervous, my first time starting the NBA. And I was like, Brian, look, man, I don't care if I have 2 points and 20 assists. I just hope we win.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up having 20 points and 2 assists because Shaq was kicking it out when he was getting double teamed. And that's when I started trusting that I could make big shots in the fourth quarter. I knew Shaq trusted me after that experience. And then that just carried throughout the rest of our career. But on nights when I didn't make big shots, because he knew I could, he appreciated the fact that I didn't try to do too much. And I always made sure the big dog got fed so that he would protect the house. And that was our relationship the whole time.
That's incredible, man. It just brings so many similarities for me because like I said, the confidence, when Steph say to me like, yo, shoot, like, let that one go.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, all right, like that. Like it takes the confidence that much higher, knowing that the guy, like Clay, like, yo, why you ain't shoot that one? Like the guys, they like, yo, we want you shooting the basketball. What that does for the confidence is absolutely incredible. But this is Champs Only, so we must talk about some about obviously a team that you play for, Dallas Mavericks, and the Boston Celtics.
Briefly, super briefly.
Very brief.
It was
very, very brief. Had a cup of coffee, I like to say.
For
real. Game 4, the Dallas stays alive. Shocked me, I must say. You expect them to come out and play hard like they did. Did not expect them to come out and get up 50. Which
I don't think anybody saw that coming either.
Crazy to see, but just getting into it, straight into it. Like, what did you take away from that game? Very lopsided, but what was your initial takeaway in just seeing Game 4?
Yeah, I mean, I did feel like Dallas could possibly win the game tonight, but not by 50. You know, there's no way that I anticipated it would be that lopsided of a victory. I was asked by one of our parents on my high school team that I coached, like, what did I think about the game? And I said, you know what? Like, I do think Boston will struggle in this fourth game because they haven't been at that doorstep yet.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been at 3 wins. And they see that fourth one right over the finish line, but it's still so far away, bro. As you know, like getting that fourth one is oftentimes literally the hardest one that you've ever played in.
Absolutely.
And so I thought they would struggle with that, you know, mentally, wouldn't necessarily understand how to play in that type of game. But I definitely didn't see Dallas smacking them up like that. My biggest takeaways, I thought that they played faster.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me was the biggest difference. I remember watching, because sometimes faster can also equal greater force, right?
Yes.
And I remember watching last year when you talked to Steve and how you talk about how he always goes forces first.
Yes.
Like X's and O's is cool, but it's a fight. And whoever brings the force to the fight first normally is able to impose their will. And Dallas did that basically tonight. And Boston thought that they could ease into that. And it was too late, man. But it was over before it really got started.
Yeah, that was very interesting. Like you said, Steve is always like, yo, our number one adjustment is our force.
Yeah,
And that was Dallas. Like, yeah, they played faster, but the points in the paint. Like,
yeah.
you looked up at halftime, I think Dallas was 5 for 15 from three. Boston Celtics was 5 for 19 from three. But if you
Mm-hmm.
looked at the points in the paint, it was like 34 to 12. I think at that point, Dallas was out rebounding them by maybe 15 or 16 rebounds. That's all a force thing. Now,
Yeah.
my question to you, I have a question because obviously we've both been in the position. When you look at that game and you say they beat them by 48 points,
Mm.
when you're Boston, are you coming back into that game now like, we know that was a fluke, let's go ahead and close this out? Or are you a little shaky like, man, I ain't know they can do that to us? Like, almost like
Yeah.
you took a big hit if you boxing. Like, what's your mindset now if you're Boston?
Yeah. I think psychologically, I know it's talked about a lot. Like when it's a blowout like that, it's almost easier to kind of get over and flush and move on from than like a
Yeah.
close one. I do agree with that in theory, but I do think sometimes what happens, not that Boston didn't anticipate that Dallas was capable of beating them, but I think sometimes what happens, and you tell me what you think, in a blowout game like tonight, Tim Hardaway starts seeing the ball go in the basket. and when that starts to happen, now when you go to Boston and you need a fourth or fifth guy, Kyrie, Luka, Derrick Jones Jr., PJ, Lively, and then all of a sudden Tim Hardaway can run on 9, 10 points in 1 minute. That starts to change the situation a little bit. So I'm not saying, I think the Celtics will obviously bring the requisite force to game 5,
Mm-hmm.
but Dallas for sure is a little more confident and they feel like, well, we're definitely going to bring the force as well. And we got Tim Hardaway Jr. feeling a little better. Dante Exum saw the ball go in the basket a little bit. He's starting to feel more comfortable in the series. I think Boston will still close it out, but Dallas feels better. I don't know if Boston feels surprised like
Mm-hmm.
that they couldn't beat them, but I do think Dallas found some things that they might be able to take to the Garden. That's just me.
That's why this is champs only, because listen, if you have not won a championship, I don't want to hear you talk about winning a championship or what happens in championship games. I quite frankly don't have the time for it. But this is the whole reason for champs only, because when I'm watching that game, Fish, I'm sitting there watching that game and I'm like, everybody's probably turned their TV off and,
Mm-hmm.
on about their day, like, oh, it's a blowout. And I'm sitting there watching that game and I'm like, yo, Tim Hardaway done got going. This could be trouble for Boston,
Yeah.
because now, in true fashion, Jay Kidd going to go to Tim Hardaway, probably first, second guy off the bench, just to
Mm-hmm.
see if it's something there, like to
Yeah.
see if like, oh, if we found something. Did Tim find this jump shot? If Tim found this jump shot, that's one more guy that can pull that defense out some. They're not
Yeah.
plugging, they're not playing boxing elbows when we got Luka and Kyrie trying to drive. He can extend that defense some. And I'm sitting there watching that game, and I'm like, yo, this is a big mistake. They let Tim Hardaway get going. And sure enough, there are 45 points. What play does Jake Kidd run out of the timeout? Back screen, down screen, Tim Hardaway 3.
Yep.
And as you know, and then on the flip side, Peyton Pritchard was out there airballing, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so
Yeah.
people do not understand the mindset. Like I always tell our guys, if there's ever a blowout, I go to our guys who's going in the game and I say, listen, let anybody score, but you cannot let one or two
Mm-hmm.
guys that like, oh, that guy's good enough to actually change the series. Like, let those other 3 guys score. Because if they
Yep.
score, those guys can't come do anything in the series. But there's 2 guys out there right now that if they score a few buckets, they're going to feel better about them. They're going to feel good about themselves. And now we're going to have to put that fire out. And we
Yes.
don't want to have to put a fire out that we haven't had to put out all of this time. And they let Tim Hardaway get going. And man, I think that's trouble.
Yeah, and I mean, and you know, sometimes people wonder, like, okay, the other team took their starters out. Why isn't Coach taking his starters out already?
Yes.
And Steve does it. There's other coaches that do it. Like he'll leave y'all in for another 2-3 minutes because nah, bro, we don't just like sprinkle some water on this fire. We putting this fire all the way out. We're not going to let it get going because we don't want them taking that psychology, that mindset into the next game. We want them thinking they have no shot of winning the next game, even if they are, you know, going to come out with the greatest force or whatever. So it is part of the chess match for sure in these series.
100%. Man, that's gold right there. Champs only, baby. That is gold. There's been a lot of talk over the last 2 days about Luka's defense. And quite frankly, I think it's bullshit because he's not defending any differently than he has before. And if I'm honest, I've seen in pockets of this playoff, like run for them, in pockets, him defend at the highest level I've ever seen him defend before.
Yes, no question.
And it's always like, oh, they're down 3-0. Here's our chance to attack him. Here's our chance to attack his defense. And I hate shit like that. Like, y'all ain't attack him when he had 40, 20, and 15 on somebody. Don't attack his defense now because it's the obvious thing that your little basketball brains can talk about. Like, I don't like that. And like I said, I think at times throughout this playoffs, he's been at an elite level defensively by his standards. What number one, what do you think of what they've made of his defense over the last couple of days? But number two, also, where you need Luka to be from a player standpoint. Obviously, you play with championship players, but also from a coach standpoint, where you need him to be on that side of the floor.
Yeah, no, I understand exactly what you mean about the larger kind of narrative around, like, let's single something out that has always been there maybe, but we're going to make a big deal about it now. Luka's never been all NBA defense. So it's not something that we're surprised about that he isn't consistently elite.
Yeah.
But to the point you made, in this playoff run, you have seen him take 2-3 steps forward in putting the effort into that end of the floor that we had never seen in the past.
Absolutely.
Ever.
Absolutely.
And I think in one of his post-game interviews, maybe against the Clippers or OKC, he actually jokingly said, because they talked about his defense and it was pretty good in that game. And he was like, hey, I mean, it's the playoffs. Like, and I want to win. So I am going to put a little more into it now than I normally would. So I think he has improved. But of course, in order to win it all, right? Like, there are times where you have to become something that maybe you haven't been as much before. And he's showing a willingness to try and be that. But you can't ask him to go 40, 15, 9 and guard the other team's best players and rebound and take charge. It doesn't work that way. There's a reason why Steph has always been a better defender than people have given him credit for. But he can't guard the other team's best player for 30 minutes a game.
Absolutely not.
That's not in alignment with the role that he actually needs to play best. So I think Luka has improved. It's something I think he'll continue to learn and grow from. I think this experience, assuming they still come up short, as you know, once you kind of get a little taste of it and you kind of start to understand, damn, I thought I had enough, but I really don't. I thought I was given enough, but I really wasn't. I thought I was sliding my feet, but the tape don't lie. Like, now I got to live with this until next season. My guess is he'll be a better defender throughout the regular season next year to continue to show that commitment that he's willing to do it, because he's probably going to feel like we have a legit chance to win the NBA championship if we keep this group together.
Mm-hmm.
So as a teammate, I would, of course, want him to be better in situations, timely defensive effort and energy. And the same thing to me as a coach for my best players that I know they carry the water so far, bro. Like,
yes,
we can't ask them to also pour everybody cup and serve them and make sure that other people are never uncomfortable. Like, we have to also have his back. So that means if Luka is Kobe and I'm Kyrie, like, I have to do more on defense to actually make up for the fact that I can't ask Kobe to chase Ray Allen off staggers, baseline screens, screen-to-screener actions, and go play offense the way we need him to play offense in order to beat the Celtics. I have to take the challenge of chasing Ray Allen. So that's almost more on me than it is Kobe. And so that's for Dallas. PJ Washington and Derrick Jones Jr. have been playing that role. So now, okay, can Kyrie play better defense? Can Tim Hardaway Jr. play better defense? Can other guys do more to cover up for the fact that we can't ask Luka to be the MVP on defense too, man? He basically third in the league in MVP overall. Like, that's not really fair all the way around, in my opinion. So that's a long way of saying I would expect him to be able to give us more when necessary, but there's no way I'm asking him to become all NBA defense when that's not really who he is, and we don't necessarily need him to be in order to win.
No, I agree 100%. I think it's garbage that the lazy folks on TV try to pinpoint it out all of a sudden, like, oh, it's his defense. Like, it's his defense the reason they're losing the game. And it's like, bro, he's playing more defense than he ever played. Why did they get here all of a sudden? And now it's his defense that's losing them the game. Like, I think that's lazy. I think that's garbage. His defense hadn't been great. That's cool, but come on with that narrative. So
yeah, you can literally you can say free throws more so than defense.
Yep.
Like, but he historically at times in late games, maybe due to fatigue or just from a mindset perspective, like, just miss a free throw or two, that not because he's not a great shooter, he just happens to miss him. He missed one late in the OKC game that almost cost him a game. So you could point to that even more so than the defense to say, as something you want to point out. But anyway, I know we could go on forever.
For sure. No, and you know what I always tell my guys, like, for any guy that's a little less of a defender, right? Like, just don't give up a straight line drive. Like, if you can make him literally just take a small veer off the path that he's trying to go on, just a small veer, I can get there and help and cover it up for you. Like, if you just give him a straight line drive, it's hard for me to not overhelp and give up something crazy over here because I overhelp. So, like, just give me one slide. Like, if you give me one slide that you're still in front and he get past you on the second slide, great, no problem. I'll be there. I'll cover my man and I'll cover him too. Like, don't, like, not for you to worry about.
Yeah, you have to know that about your teammate. Like, you understand your teammate's strengths and weaknesses and how to cover up for those things. And so Phil Jackson was one of the guys that, like, he would talk about Tony Kukoc when they were in Chicago. And how, like, they started to understand, like, if they saw Tony on the island with some of the greatest players to ever play the game, they weren't going to just leave him over there.
Yes.
Slide, make him turn, make him use a change of direction. And then now we can provide some support. I personally think, Luka could be better, but he has put way more possessions together on the defensive end where he's at least turned the guy a couple times or at least forced him to change direction a little bit to still get downhill. We could definitely point it out, but.
And how much more can you ask for than that? Then at that point, if he does that, if Luka slides his feet once, slides his feet twice, make a guy turn direction, and y'all not there to help, that's on their defense. That ain't on Luka. Like, that's on your defense because you're supposed to be there to cover for him anyway. The way I look at it, but like Steph got so much better defensively. Now Steph actually became one of the better defenders on our team, which if you watched him in 2015, you would have never thought by 2022 he's one of the best defenders, or 2020 he's one of the best defenders on our team, and like he became that. But my thing is, the way I viewed it, for anyone that needs some help on how you should view this man covers up for me on some things offensively. Then I better be there to cover up for him some things defensively.
Yeah.
Like, because that's how this thing works. Where I may fall a little short of the glory, you pick me up there. And where you may fall a little bit short of the glory, I'm going to pick you up there. So it's definitely on their guys to protect Luka more. Luka, that does not say, Luka, you don't have to try. No, everyone must give effort. And if you give a little bit of effort, those guys for sure better be there.
Yeah. But and in game 5, he's going to have the best defensive game he's ever played in order for him to have a chance to win.
Absolutely.
That's going to be the reality of it. He will be tested on that end of the floor.
Absolutely. Sure. Do you think, because I thought Dallas were great defensively, all their rotations was there, even had Luka on a couple trap the boxes and going vertical. I thought the defense was great. Do you think it's possible for Dallas to repeat the defensive performance that they had tonight?
Yes, because I believe, there are times when there's no other choice, right? Like you feel like you've been doing it, but I'm sure the coaches put on tape the closeouts just weren't good enough in game 3. The rotations weren't sharp enough. You didn't give your body up in that situation. You missed a box out. You missed a communication opportunity to make sure that your teammate understood what you needed him to do. And so they internalized those things and went out and executed. Obviously, at home, there's also a greater sense of pride, in making sure certain things happen in front of your home fans, family, etc. But I think they will take that same mentality to Boston. I think the question will be more, will Boston be better? And, what we all want is for both teams to be the best of themselves on Monday night. And we have an epic game. And whoever wins is who wins. But both teams at their best. Dallas taking their defense to Boston, effort, force, energy. And then Boston at the Garden, shooting the ball better. Their defense will probably be better. Porzingis is still going to be missed. I mean, the Celtics were able to win game 3 without him. But as the series goes on, when you're missing a player of that caliber, it will start to catch up at some point. Al Horford foul trouble changes everything.
Yeah.
Without Porzingis available. So there are still some interesting storylines, but I think Dallas will bring their best selves to the game. I think we all feel, though, that when Boston is at their best, there's still a gap there.
Yeah, their better is definitely better than Dallas for sure. So with that being said, and we'd love to hit a couple more topics with you, but with that being said, give us your prediction for game 5.
Oof. Man, it's a tough one. I don't think Boston feels that, we played in some games, like home games where you're up maybe 3-2. And you feel a little bit more pressure and anxiety that doesn't allow you to quite come out and play as relaxed and free as you need to be able to play. And that sometimes leads to a slow start by the home team.
Yeah.
And that then, if Tim Hardaway subs in quick and makes 2-3 threes, if Luka is aggressive, right at the start, and all of a sudden, Boston, after losing by 48, is down by 10 in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That cycle can start to some degree. With that being said, I think Boston will close it out on Monday night. I don't know what it'll look like. I don't know if it'll be a Boston Avalanche of 13 out of 26 from three, or I mean, for them, they're going to attempt 43. So I don't know if it'll be a 18 out of 40 type of 3-point night. Oftentimes, man, trying to win that last one is going to be ugly, and you're
It's
going to have to
never
get it
going to
out the
be.
mud.
It's never going to be pretty. It
And
just never
no,
works. I don't know why
no,
it doesn't work, but it
it
never
doesn't,
works.
bro. It doesn't. It
Like,
just doesn't. That it could happen on the road, like when Steph went and dropped 50 in Sacramento. That's more likely to happen on the road than at home.
mm-hmm.
It's
That's a
just
fact.
different. It
Yeah.
really is. Like those great performances. Oftentimes, Michael Jordan with the flu game,
Yeah.
LeBron in Detroit.
Game 7. LeBron in Game 7 versus us. Kyrie.
Yes,
LeBron in.
like it's more likely to happen on the road than at home. So I do think, if Boston starts a little clunky,
Yeah.
they could start to feel a little something, but I think they'll throw this one away tonight. I think they'll close it out on Monday. I have no idea what the score will be, but I just feel like Boston is better and they'll win Monday.
I love that. I think, it's interesting because I always say we get to a spot where during the series, it's like, oh, we got something figured out now. Like, we good. Like, we got it.
Mm-hmm.
And Derek Lively said today, he said, we think we got them figured out now. And he said this before them, like way well before them winning the game, like in the first quarter. He's like, yeah, we actually think we got them figured out now. And then to go on and win, for your rookie to say that means y'all been discussing this.
Mm-hmm.
And then y'all go on and win by 48 points. Do I think even if you got it figured out, you're going to win by 40? They didn't win by 48, but they got by 48.
Right.
But that you're getting up by 48, even if you have something figured out, I don't necessarily believe that, but I do think there is something to say for Lively saying, no, we got them figured out in the first quarter, and then the game that happened. So in saying that, I expected more of this Dallas team anyway than the Dallas team that we definitely saw in the first couple games.
Mm-hmm.
But it is tough going back for Game 5 down 3-1, where they're like, yo, they were supposed to do that. We went and did what we were supposed to do. We won our one on the road. They did what they're supposed to do. Now let's go close it out. And the reason it's tough because Boston is the better team. Like, I don't think there's anyone in the world that doesn't think Boston is the better team. And like you said, if they play their best and Dallas play their best, Boston wins. However, for a team like Boston that's gotten close and not been able to get over the hump, you can shit the bed.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You can. And so with that being said, I think this was a little more like this was a little more like Minnesota versus Dallas, where we all thought Minnesota was done, and then Dallas, Minnesota had a big game. I'm gonna say this is a lot like that. We thought Dallas was in the can. Yeah. They're a prideful team. You don't get to the NBA Finals without being a prideful team, and they came out and played the way they're supposed to play. But Tim Hardaway now got to go on the road and hit them shots, a little bit different. Hitting them shots on the road. So, I think it's something to say for them going inside, throwing the ball to Gafford, making it a point, saying we're going to out-physical y'all. Yeah. I just don't know if the out-physical is going to work in Boston in front of that crowd, and I got to go with Boston closing it out in Game 5.
Yeah. They in Game 3, you could tell they made a concerted effort to activate JT defensively.
Yes.
So instead of hiding, not hiding because he can't defend, but essentially like conserving his energy and having him guard Gafford so that they could switch pick and roll. Dallas was going away from that the first couple games because Boston is so effective in their switching. But then there was an adjustment made where they decided, you know what, let's actually bring Jayson Tatum into the action and attack him and force him to have to work on the defensive end. I thought that took some of his legs a little bit. They did it a little bit in Game 2, some in Game 3. They still obviously closed the game out, but I think that's something they feel like they may have figured out. And so when he is guarding Gafford, they're going to post him and dip into his legs a little bit, burn that energy and try to wear him down over the course of the game. But I agree with you. I somehow, this is just, me and us talking, like, if they don't remember you guys closing them out in 22 at home, and like literally tell themselves on Monday night, I don't care what happens tonight, bro. We are not walking off this court without a victory. There is no way they are beating us on our home court and we have to go back to Dallas and play game 6. It's not happening. And then whatever they do from there, it may not look pretty or whatever, but it just has to be a decision. And you would think that this is the year, they've been close. They've had some opportunities. You guys' experience and ability to understand those moments in that series and take advantage of them. Like, they're that team now.
Yes.
Against a team that hasn't been there.
Absolutely.
And so one would tell you they should finish it off on Monday night, but these young guys are different,
Yes,
so
they are.
Luka magic could happen. Kyrie special. You never know.
That's a fact. That's a fact. By the way, that's why this is Champs Only again, because you all just would have never noticed how they were going away from Jayson Tatum and bringing him in. And, when you've been through these series and, like, you understand how important the adjustments is, like, I love having these conversations because for me, as someone who thinks I know a bunch about the game, like, I continue to learn and having these conversations. And so it's always fun for me. So number one, I just want to say thank you for the education that you just gave out on the Draymond Green show. Because myself, for me, I just learned some things and I am excited about it. Check this out, though. I was recently on the Big Fella podcast. Shaq Stradamus, Shaq Diesel, the big Shaq this. You name it. The big Aristotle. I was on this podcast. He was on the show. And we discussed the 0-1 Lakers versus the 17 Warriors. Now, quite frankly, if I'm honest, I hate when people have these discussions because it's like these people have these discussions and it's no merit to the conversation or anything.
Right.
A bunch of hypotheticals or what is. However, I hypothetically love fucking having these conversations with guys that's been a part of it. And so let's discuss this. Like, me and Shaq obviously disagreed on who would win the series. I quite frankly got us beating y'all in 5, but like, how you see this series going, Fish?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, as Champs Only, you have to respect champions. So
absolutely.
I in 5, I think is, I don't know if you got the Lobos in there with you or what's going on, but in 5, I don't know about that. I mean, champs against champs, it should be a battle. It should go to game 7. It's like you said, it's always fun, even though it's not real.
Absolutely.
Right? To just talk about the possibilities and the matchups. And, you obviously always should think your team is better than anybody else's team that,
absolutely,
that got it done in that way. It's hard to explain to people how physically dominant Shaq really was. Like, I think people see the videos and they see the backboard smash and all of that, but I don't know if there's a recognition of, like, the way we now run pick and roll to put pressure on the rim to create threes.
Yes.
Shaq literally was every pick and roll you ever try to run, you could just throw it to him to get the ball to the rim.
Yes.
Like it.
Wow.
And the most efficient shots in basketball are at the rim, corner threes, free throws. And we got all of that because of him in theory. And then obviously Kobe was able to do a lot. But am I naive to think that, like, who's guarding Kevin Durant?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Rick Fox was amazing defensively. Maybe that's a cover that he could figure out because Rick was physical and, but KD was KD. Obviously, Steph in his prime, how elite you guys were defensively, like we were with our 01 team, we were fairly predictable because of Shaq's dominance.
Yes.
So, you know what I mean? So defensively, you guys definitely would have been able to scheme some things and try to, maybe front and back him and send a guy over on the baseline side if he was fronted as the ball was in the air.
Mm-hmm.
But, Shaq literally has changed people's dental work, bro. Like,
man, crazy.
that just no double team, triple team, anything could fathom. So all of that to say, to me, when you talk about like the greatest teams ever, it's got to be a coin toss.
Yeah.
And it probably would depend on who has home court.
Mm-hmm. That helps.
And it depends on what rules are we playing.
That's true, because if we play in today's rules,
if I could foul Steph the way I play defense, we might have a chance because I'm beating him up. If I could hold and grab like we could in 01 compared to what? We might be able to guard you, but
Fish, I may have to get thrown out of one of the games because I got to come get you off my man with a crazy screen one of these games. Like, I can't just let you grab my man.
For sure.
But honestly, man, for me, like, y'all were the golden standard. Like, we grew up watching y'all and the Spurs dominate everything. For me, as a kid growing up in the state of Michigan, obviously, seeing the Detroit Pistons and their dominance, and I know they were able to win one championship, but they were going to conference finals each and every year, a couple finals. Like, and that was kind of the standard. And like, the brand of basketball that y'all played then is obviously totally different than the brand of basketball that's played now. And, when I look at like the rules that y'all play by, quite frankly, if I'm honest, I don't think we could have beat y'all at those rules. Like, no chance. Like, we play a totally different game. However, if the rules are how they are today, like, I don't think there's a chance y'all can keep up with us because you can't grab. Like, so now guys just moving around, it's speed, it's a bunch and with those rules, size becomes less important because you're almost protected from the size, And so it's a very interesting thing nonetheless, man. I think, just to be in that, for me, to be in a conversation of the teams like I grew up watching, like the Lakers, the Bulls, like the Pistons, the Spurs, like to be in the conversation with those teams to me is always mind blowing because those are the teams. Like as a like I was the kid that went to sleep with my TV on. I slept the whole night with it on, and it's on ESPN all night. Sports Center, like I ate, breathed, and what else? Basketball, like NBA basketball. And so just to be mentioned with those teams for me is more of an honor than I could ever imagine.
Yeah, same here. That's why I refuse to kind of try to fall into the like, oh yeah, well we would have and this and that, because just to even be in the conversation is amazing to begin with.
Absolutely.
And like you have to show respect, man, to
100%.
Teams that have got it. Like I got asked about how I'm gonna feel if the Celtics or when the Celtics do win the title as a former Laker. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course, I would want the Lakers to win as much as possible. But the way that I watched, I mean, I had 2 years in Golden State, but I'm not part of the Warriors fabric in the way that you guys are. But I can watch it and respect it and cherish greatness. And teams that win titles found a level of greatness in that season that nobody else did.
Facts.
And I can't hate on that. I might not love it, but I'm not hating on it.
Facts. You always got to respect a champion. I always say that. Before we get out of here, I know you're a WNBA basketball fan, obviously, with being a coach in the WNBA and knowing some of the great talent that's in the WNBA. What do you make of this massive rise in the popularity of of the WNBA, and I think we're starting to know more and more of the players, which I think is huge. But what do you make of this current rise in the popularity of the game?
I mean, I think it's amazing, man. I don't even want to say long overdue. Like everything is about timing. It's about different variables aligning in certain ways, and similar to the men's game, it takes specific players, not just great players, but specific players at specific times that create a level of interest and intrigue and greatness in their performance that brings people to the game in a way that, not because they're Dr. J was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
George Gervin was outstanding. Oscar Robertson was that dude. George Mikan was crazy. Havlicek, Bill Walton. We just lost Bill Walton. We just lost Jerry West. Like, those guys were as good as it gets. But the timing of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird coming into the league after playing in the NCAA title game, some of the underlying social things around a white player and a black player.
Yeah.
Like you're seeing a little bit of that, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
And so it brings forth this conversation around, like, there was a lot of discomfort in the 80s. And there was a lot of assumption that white people were fans of the Celtics and black people and minorities were fans of the Lakers. And there was this divide that was created as though it was black against white, when it really was Lakers fans against Celtics fans.
Yes.
And that's okay. And so I think the popularity of the game, it deserves it. We all need to continue to invest in it. I think as men, we have to continue to do more with our platforms, with our time, whatever we can do, to not just talk about it, but like try to positively influence it and impact it, so that our daughters and our nieces and all the little girls that are watching this generation of player can grow up with the same way we watched our greats before us and start to see themselves in those situations. So we have to prop this league up and make sure it continues to grow. Of course, Caitlin Clark deserves a ton of the credit because of who she is. But even when you turn the game on to watch her, you better watch what A'ja Wilson's doing.
It's killer. A'ja, by the way, on the way to being the GOAT for me, but that's totally,
oh my gosh, you better watch what she's doing. If you've watched in the past, Candace Parker just retired, but GOAT, right? If Lisa Leslie, like, the history of this game is littered with great women basketball players. Absolutely. And so the rise will also bring a rise to the respect that they deserve, 100%. That they didn't get just because they came a little earlier. You know what I mean?
That's a fact.
But we got to show them love too. So I love it, man. I enjoyed my time in the W. I would do it again. It's a great league. And I'm so happy that there's going to be a team in the Bay Area now that the fans can support up there. And, that team will have my support too, for sure.
No, man, most definitely. I think the W, and just watching the growth of it, it's been incredible. Because I think, for us, we've always appreciated their talent. We've always appreciated what those women bring to the sport, to the game of basketball. And I think for them to start getting their due, and it's not where it's going to go. I think it'll continue to grow and grow and grow. And the reality is, I think there's so much discourse around the topic because I do think the women do themselves a disservice at times of comparing it to us. And the reason I think they do themselves a disservice is actually has nothing to do with the game of basketball, but everything to do with the W is now, I think, in year 27.
Yes.
And the NBA is in year now maybe 77.
Yes.
The difference in between 50 years for a company is drastic. It's sure. like night and day. It's like General Motors and Tesla. The difference in between the companies are drastic. Now, Tesla may be worth more now. I don't know. I don't know the numbers or whatever. But point being, like, it's a drastic difference. And I think, when you start to play the comparison game, you're comparing like strictly from a time standpoint, a baby
Correct.
to like a grandfather, like just strictly from a time standpoint, literally like 50 years is a long time. And that is the head start that the NBA has on the W. And nonetheless, like I said, to see these ladies getting some of the credit that they deserve, the notoriety is coming and it's happening, and I think it's great. Two young stars, I think, definitely now with the Sparks. What's your thoughts on Rickea Jackson and Cameron Brink, the new young stars of the Sparks?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the turnover of the roster and going from Hall of Famers and all-time greats and Candace Parker, Nneka Ogwumike, Chelsea Gray, obviously becoming a Hall of Famer. I can't wait for her to get back on the court for Vegas. And so when you think about the way the Sparks have now gone through that process, we tried to stay away from the rebuild as long as we could. But now you have to go through it at some point once that window closes. And so I think Cameron Brink and Rickea Jackson are not just great players, but they have the size, the length, the versatility that, similar to what's happened in the men's game, you need that on the women's side too now.
Absolutely.
Like, you have to be able to defend multiple positions. You have to be able to play facing the basket. You have to be able to shoot the three. If you can operate in pick and roll, and both of those players can do those things. And from what I can tell, they're high character young women. So those are great pieces that the Sparks have added. The hard part is, as you know, when you've been winning championships and there's that legacy there's that feeling that it has to quickly get back to what it was.
Yes.
And instead of understanding like what you guys have, what great teams have, has been built over time, and you can't rush that always. And so hopefully, the ladies will get some time and get a few years together. But those two players specifically, you surround them with the right pieces, some good veteran pieces at the right time. I think there's a bright future in LA for the Sparks.
1,000%. And before we get out of here, last question. We have to talk about, like you mentioned, her player, one of the players who's brought all this notoriety, because I think Angel has definitely done her share in bringing that notoriety as well.
Yeah.
But less about the notoriety and more about the discourse around Caitlin Clark. You got like a lot of people kind of talking for her, and she's not that she's hiding, but these narratives just get pushed. What do you make around the discourse for Caitlin Clark?
Yeah, no, I think, sometimes people say all publicity is good publicity, right? I don't completely agree with that. I do think there are times where the discourse doesn't need to be completely what it is. And so I think some of that has happened with Caitlin Clark, where we've kind of gotten away at times from appreciating who she is and what she is, without us, like, it's almost like people are trying to find reasons to kind of dislike or almost like attach it to her, when in reality, she's literally never said any of the stuff that other people have to say. While also, I think those narratives and that discourse, which is why you see such strong reactions from current players in the W, is that it almost kind of starts to like create this thing as though they aren't able to have a feeling or an opinion or an emotion around what's going on. Like, they're supposed to just kind of shut up and be thankful for Caitlin's arrival to the league. Like, she's saving your life. And while from a business perspective, we probably will be able to point to 2024 and her arrival as a launching pad, new media rights deal, a lot of the positive things that are going to come to the W from this moment.
Yes.
But to, you know, if I'm Asia Wilson, if I'm Nneka Ogwumike, if I'm Diana Taurasi, if I'm one of the all-time greats, you can't tell me that just this one young lady alone should get all of the credit for, like, I should be thankful to her that, you know, I don't have to take a commercial flight anymore, as though all the work I've done in this league over the last 6, 7, 12, 15 years doesn't count.
Yes.
Like, that's what it sounds like when we try to make it seem like they're hating or jealous per se.
Mm-hmm.
And competitive, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, look, bro, I was and still am. I couldn't hold a freaking candle to Michael Jordan. But even when I was young and played in the league, I refused to wear Air Jordans.
That part.
Like, just generationally, where, like, growing up, just from a competitive standpoint, it was different.
Mm-hmm.
The same way a lot of older guys complain about how respectful and how you guys show each other love and give each other flowers. Yeah. Like, just because we didn't do that doesn't mean it's wrong.
That part.
Because we should have probably been doing more of that as men to show love and respect. But still, I want to kick you when we get out there
every single time.
And so I think the discourse has gotten off track at times. Yeah. My hope is that at some point it'll quiet down around some of the negative things that have nothing to do with basketball, and we'll really start to like with Wemby, for example. Like, all of that was about basketball.
Everything.
He's a generational talent. We knew it. We saw it. He struggled at times. We were okay with it because he's a rookie. He's not on a great team. He's coached by a great coach, but it's not their time to be great right now. But we allowed him to go through his ups and downs. We followed his journey, and we have to respect her journey the same way, regardless of her color. Allow her to go through her struggles. Don't try to make it out to be a bunch of other stuff, but don't also try to make it seem like the ladies that's been in the W and been building this thing and brick by brick by brick for the last 27 years, just like they don't count all of a sudden because she's here, even if she's great. So I know that was a long answer, bro, but I get passionate about it, you know, because we got to protect our women, bro. Like, we just can't allow people to just kind of make it seem like it's whatever and it's just jealousy and envy, when in reality, you don't think they want what's best for the league, which she is. She is great for the league, and the ladies understand that too. But, like, don't make it seem like I'm nobody.
Yeah,
you know,
and like I owe her something.
Yeah, other than competitive respect.
That's it.
I mean, that was literally the Jordan rules, right? Since I brought up Michael Jordan, the Detroit Pistons literally did the same thing to Michael Jordan.
Yes.
Which elevated his level of play to what we now know as the GOAT.
The GOAT.
He had not won championships before that.
Yeah.
He started taking notes, bigger, stronger, understand what they're trying to do, the type of system I need to play in, the way I need to be able to move without the ball, all of that. So anyway, man, I could go forever talking hoops on the men's and women's side. I love it, bro.
No, I love that answer too, because I think, like you said, Kayla's been great, but I've heard no one say Caitlin got the opportunity to be this because of all the sweat of these women that came before her. You know, so like it goes both ways. Like, Caitlin has 1,000% brought an uptick in popularity to the league, which is great. The league is not where it's at today to where Caitlin can bring that uptick if these women, back to Cheryl Swoops and Cynthia Coopers and Lisa Leslie's, like Rebecca Lobos, like, I mean, you go down the list, like on to DT, Sue, Candace
Maya
Parker,
Moore, Sue Bird, all that, Lindsay
Sylvia
Whalen,
Files, Simone Augustus, right? Like, without their work, then it also doesn't get to this point either. So I'm happy for what she's brought to the league. I'm happy to see them competing the way they compete. Like, keep competing like that, because at the end of the day, that's what people are paying to see. They're not paying to see a soft game, a weak game. They're paying to see competitive basketball. So keep competing that way. I absolutely love it. But man, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. Absolutely incredible to have this conversation, to learn from you, pick your brain, hear your thoughts. This was a long one. And
Yeah.
shout out to everybody who stayed and stayed tuned in. I hope you appreciated this conversation as much as I have. So again, D-Fish, I want to say thank you for coming on the show, man. We appreciate it.
Nah, Dre, I appreciate you, man. I have to give you your flowers back, the way you started the show. You know, when I watch basketball now, like, I watch the game from the lens that I wore the most, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a guy that provides impact and value in ways that sometimes people don't see.
Mm-hmm.
But you know it, your guys in your locker room know it, your coaches know it, the people that have spent time with you and been in the bunker with you, they know it. But there's a lot of people out here that know it too. And whether we always agree with, okay, well, yeah, I wouldn't have said that, I wouldn't have handled it like that. Well, I'm not you. I don't go through what you have gone through. My life experiences are completely different than yours.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we are going to handle situations differently because we're two different people. But I want to say congratulations to what you have done, meaning there's still more to go. Not just on the court. Obviously, you have a beautiful family. You continue to learn and grow and evolve as a man, as a player, as a person that is also showing how to build something off the court that can also last a lifetime. So whenever your time is up and you decide to do something else, you're already on that path. And a lot of guys are going to follow your lead the same way we saw Magic Johnson and like, oh man, I could hoop and like one day be a CEO. I could one day, like, there are a generation of high school players like seeing what you're doing and saying, not only can I win championships and be a key piece to greatness, but I also can create a platform and talk about basketball and talk about life and share positive things with other people. And that's something to be valued and respected as well, man. So keep going, keep growing. I'm a fan. I respect you. I love what you guys have built.
Thank you.
I hate it. I hate to see you guys not go all the way, because I try to tell people all the time, like, the team that passes the most has been the most successful in the NBA over the last 9 years. So y'all can keep trying to dribble through everything if you want to.
That part.
The pass is amazing. It does a lot of great things. So
Yes,
I appreciate the opportunity to be here, man, on your platform. I appreciate you guys. And it's been a treat to be on Champs Only, man. It's been enjoyable.
Thank you. That's Champs Only. That's a wrap. And I know all of you are probably looking forward to me talking about Clay unfollowing the Warriors and deleting some IG posts or something. I had no idea that happened. I think it's fucking hilarious. Just so y'all know, I laugh when I logged on here and Jackson's like, yo, so what about Clay? I'm like, what? Like, what happened? It's like, oh, he unfollowed the Warriors. I think that's comical. I know you all be wanting like somebody's feelings to be hurt or something. It ain't that. Ain't never going to be that. That's hilarious. Until next time. Champs Only, baby. Shout out to the 5-time champion, Derek Fisher. Much love. We appreciate you. Till next time, folks, that's a wrap. Peace.